Welcome everyone after the break. I would like to introduce Mariusz Sawczuk and Jochen Belke. And we're going to talk about invisible attacks who are visible in your network. And if anyone has a question during or after the presentation, please raise your hand and I'll bring you the microphone. Thank you.
So hello, good morning for everyone. I'm Mariusz Sawczuk. I'm the manager of the technical sales support team at 7net. And together with the Jochen Belke, which is the original technical director at Lancope, we will present you today the presentation about the invisible attacks. Invisible attacks, and we will try to explain you the methodology which the attacker can use to succeed the invisible attack, and also we will introduce you some unique technology which can help you to detect and telemetry such attack. So here's an agenda of what we will cover today. First, we will explain you the anatomy of the invisible threat, on which phases such invisible APT attack can consist. After that, we will talk about the network, because the network can be a friend of you. It can take you a lot of information about the attack itself. And after this, Jochen will show us some telemetry tool which is developed by the Lancope. This is a stealth watch system, and we will end our presentation with the live demo of the stealth watch system. And during this presentation, if you have some question, please just ask and we will try to answer your question. So, invisible threat. Many of you probably know a little or maybe more than we about the invisible threats. And to fully understand invisible threats, to fully understand AP attacks, first we should know how those attacks works. So let's say we have a network secured by the firewall and the IPS engine. There may be also some antivirus engines installed on these machines. Let's say we have also DMZ zone, and there is a compromised server in the internet. So from where and from which phases such invisible attacks, such APT attacks could start? So it could be, of course, reconnaissance. This is the zero phase of the invisible attack. And during these phases, we observe scanning activities, probably Nmap scannings, but not only. Attackers are using, during these days, mostly social engineering. They like to read information on Facebook, on LinkedIn about the victims. Why they want to do this? Because they want to know the weakness of the whole environment, not only the system itself. So they use also dummy attacks and DDoS to obfuscate, to avoid some detection. And after that, we can observe exploitation phase, which is pretty cool. During this exploitation phase, attacker wants to send to the victim a piece of code and exploit. This piece of code is, of course, try to use to exploit some vulnerability of the system. It can be a vulnerability of the web browser, of the application. Most of exploits are using, of course, zero-day vulnerabilities, which are very dangerous because nobody knows about it. And during these phases, we can observe many obfuscation techniques, which allows the attacker to be invisible in the network. So we have obfuscated JavaScript code. We have also deliver to the victim specially prepared PDF file. So after this phase, the victim machine is exploited. After this, we have a dropper phase. Let's say we have already exploited the station. What we want from the victim is to be present at the station even after reboot. So during these phases, during the dropper phases, there is a lots of binary files downloaded to the station, many keyloggers, password crackers, and so on. And during these phases, there is a lots of techniques also used to be invisible, to avoid to obfuscate some security policy, some security devices. And after that, there is a command and control phase. Most of you probably know about the callbacks also. But after this phase, after the command and control phase, this victim machine is fully compromised. There is established a secure channel to the some control. For what? For the purpose of the attacker. And the purpose of the attacker, this is those phases. It can be a data loss regarding of the purpose of the attacker. And of course, the advanced malware wants to spread internally in the network, so we observe many malware propagation activities. So here's an example, just short example of the IP attack, of the APT attack. And take a look closer to this attack. So this is an example of the exploit. To be honest, this is the exploit which was made by Chinese during the Aurora operation. Such exploit is a piece of JavaScript. Here we can see obfuscated shellcode. And if the victim machine is forced to visit such page, he's try to execute, of course, this obfuscated JavaScript, which is hidden in the raw HTML file. And these techniques of the exploitation is called heap spray attack, because during this exploitation phase, the attacker wants to manipulate the memory space which is reserved for the web browser. Why? Because he wants to inject some malicious code to this reserved memory space. And this was only just a simple example of the exploitation phase. After exploitation, as I mentioned before, there is a second phase, very dangerous and very important phase, which is the dropper phase. And we can imagine how many techniques they can be used during this phase. Because from my experience, most of the companies are extremely prohibited to download some executable files to the stations. There is, of course, security policy which denies such activities. So how it is possible to download some executable files to the victim? So this is one of the obfuscated techniques. Here we can see just simple randomly looking binary file. And this file can be downloaded to the victim machine. Why? Because it's a binary file. It's not executable. Not yet. If we will just apply some key for this randomly looking binary file, this file becomes an executable file. So we have previously exploited victim. We have at this station, at the hard drive of this station, an executable file downloaded already in this station. So since this station is compromised, it is really, really simple to run such file and install the malware. And why those attacks are so effective? Why those invisible attacks are so effective? Because they use many techniques of the obfuscation, typical signature-based security. Typical signature-based security is not enough during these days. If you have firewalls, next-generation firewalls even, you can even use IPS engines, antivirus engines. It's not enough. Because as I told you before, there are many techniques of the obfuscation, such security engines, and that's why those attacks can be very successful, even if we have security engines installed. Okay, so what is the solution for this problem? On the market, there are few technologies which can help us to detect and try to understand that we are the victim of the HPT invisible attack. And we strongly believe that our network could be a solution. Our network could be a friend of us and give us some information about such invisible threat. So let's say we have a network. Of course, there are many devices here. You have some catalyst switches, some servers, some firewalls, some routers. And those devices, they don't know that they are transmitting the attack, but they transmit all the traffic. So these devices can't help us in detection of the invisible threat. How? Because most of them supports NetFlow. How many of you guys knows a little bit about the NetFlow? A few, some? Yeah. Okay. So what is the NetFlow? The NetFlow is IP traffic monitoring protocol developed by Cisco. But, you know, not only Cisco devices supports NetFlow, there are many other vendors which can collect information from the NetFlow. And by the way, if you are using Juniper devices, there is an equivalent technology to the NetFlow, which is called JFlow. Probably most of you heard about this technology. Freecom or HP, it uses also equivalent technology to the NetFlow, which is called NetStream. I guess, I don't know this, but I read about this technology, something. So what is the NetFlow? The NetFlow is the network protocol, which you can enable on your network devices. And this protocol can give you some metadata about the flows in your network. So let's assume that we have a user which wants to visit some Google web page, and from the perspective of this router, there are two different flows. One flow, which we can observe on this interface, is the request of the web page, and the second is the response. So from the perspective of this router, there are two separate flows. When we want to see the web page, this one, here you can see the destination IP is, the destination domain is the google.com, and we are trying to get to this website on the port 80. And as a result, we achieve response from the server to our station on the higher port. So NetFlow has many fields which we can collect from the network. on version of NetFlow version 9, there is about 160 parameters, 160 fields that we can collect from the network. Not everyone are necessary, of course, but the NetFlow is a very powerful tool to understand, to give some knowledge from your network to your security purposes. And NetFlow has many versions. What is really important that NetFlow, of course, there was version 5 of the NetFlow, which was pretty simple. There is a version 9. There is, of course, flexible NetFlow. And there are others versions of the NetFlow. I will not talk about this today because we will show you on the field how the NetFlow looks like. And what is most important, as I mentioned before, NetFlow, it's not only supported on Cisco devices. Almost every device, every network device supports some kind of NetFlow protocol. So you should be not aware to just enable it and see what's information, what metadata from the flows you can achieve using this technology. And from the guys which are responsible for switch and router configuration, I just plug in some hints how to configure the NetFlow. So we should first start from the exporter configuration. Here are the commands on the Cisco devices. After that, we should configure a flow record. And flow record contains of many fields. As I mentioned before, you must decide which fields you want to collect from your network. And we just only collect some destination and source IP addresses. After that, we should configure a flow monitor. Flow monitor contains of the flow exporter and flow record, which we previously configured. And after that, we should enable such monitor on particular interface. And that's it. We have enabled NetFlow. And I will not go into detail, okay? But I just leave you for further purposes, for further use, for the guys which will enable such technology in their environment. Here is an example of the switch flow record configuration. And there are recommended fields which you should enable on the switch. After that, I also mention about the router flow record configuration. I will not go into detail, just leave you for the future use. And here is an example of the ASA ncell, not nflow, because on the ASA there is no NetFlow itself. It's a ncell technology which is a combination of the NetFlow and syslog. So we agreed that we have APT attacks in our environment. Is it possible to be a goal of such attack? I have explained you which technology can be used during those attacks. There are many techniques which can allow attacker to be invisible in the network. We agreed that we have a network protocol, which is the NetFlow, and information from it can be very can give us many information. And what is the solution for this? So Jochen will show us some very interesting, unique technology which can collect, analyze NetFlow information.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning from my side. My name is Jochen Belke, working for LANCOPE in Germany. What I'm speaking about today is what you see here: viruses, worms, botnets, direct attacks. I will not explain what it is. If you don't know it, go to Google, read it. But even if you don't exactly know how they work, but I guess most of you do, what we have here is a network. And believe me, inside your network, we will have some threads. Even if you don't see them, they are there. So attacks in networks, they hide. And if you want to detect those attacks, you have to observe your network. After you have observed your network, you have to orient. That could be cultural traditions, analysis, new information, whatever. Then you have to do decisions. After you have decided something, you have to take that feedback, go back to observation, and do it again. And once you have decided to act, still then you have to go back to observe, orient, decide, act. That means that's a procedure that you have to do every time. And if you do that, there are some questions that you have to answer. Who is attacking you? Is it a state? Is it a competitor? Is it an individual? We heard about China this morning. What is attacked? What's the target? When are you attacked? Is there a special time of day? Is there a special day in the week? Is it just one day in the month? Where are you attacked? Where is the attacker? Where are they successful? These are questions you have to answer. Why are you attacked? What is the goal of the attack? You have heard it this morning. That could be economics, that could be politics, that could be just spying your network for information. And how are you attacked? Are those 0 days attacks, known passwords, insiders? A lot of attacks at the moment are insiders. People working in a company and just try to get information out of the company to sell them to whatever, to states, to different companies. So what can we do there? We just heard that we can see flows in a network. And the flows in a network, they could look like this, where we have clients and servers and some information to that from both directions. And what I want to show you today is not looking in one direction or looking at packets, we're looking at flows. And the flow is from start to the end while those machines are speaking to each other. Sometimes you only have a few packets, but over a long time. Sometimes you have a very high traffic in a short time. If we look at the flows, we will see both. And from those flows, we can see something that is abnormal in your network. That means if we look at those flows, we can look at the behavior that you normally have in a network. That could be that we take a look at number of concurrent flows, packets per second, bits per second, whatever, time of day, number of SYNs. And with those information, we create a behavior over time. And you see that down here. For different groups of machines, we can see what is a normal behavior of that group. And here you see some critical servers, and we have a threshold. This threshold, we look at that over the last 30 days. Here you see some exchange servers, and there you have an abnormal spike. That means normally an exchange server shouldn't behave like that. And if you want to see an attack now, you look at that spike and you will see there could be something wrong. So how are we doing that? You have heard we have many machines that support NetFlow, but we also can use SFlow or IPFix or whatever. And those machines in a network, they deliver the information to us. That means we take that NetFlow and send it to a flow collector. On that flow collector, all the information from the different machines are collected, are aggregated, and from there we will send it to a management console. And this management console, we will see that in a few minutes. I will show a live demo. We also can have different devices sitting in a network. If you do not have the possibility to use NetFlow, because the machines are not enabled to do that, there are also machines that are called flow sensors, which can deliver those information, which you just connect to a span port or mirror port. And you also can use that as a virtual machine. So if you have virtual environments, it's normally hard to see what's happening inside those virtual environments. So we also have a solution for that. If you want to send those information not only to this management console, if you want to send it to other management consoles because you are using OpenView, NetView, whatever, we have a possibility to do that. And what could be interesting, we have the possibility to connect, for example, to a Cisco ISE to get more information. From the flows, we get information like source, destination, and so on. So basically, IP addresses and information on that layer. If you connect to a Cisco ISE, you also can get the login information of the users and connect the flows to people and to devices. So it gives you even more information. And we also have the optional possibility to use Slick, which also gives you much more information.
Slick is a reputation information about the attacker, let's say. Could
yes, be. Correct. That's, we will speak about that a little bit later. So, where do you use NetFlow? There are different possibilities in the network. One of them is at the access point. One is distribution and core, and one could be the edge. And there are different machines at the different places which can deliver different information to you. If you want to see everything that's going on in the network, you would go to the access, distribution, and core, and also to the edge to get all the information. And from what you get there, you can drill down into those flows. That means if you might not be able to read that, but that is how we could show a flow. And there you see lots of information. You see who is doing something, what is used, the application, when was it, and from there you can even drill down and say, where was it? Because we know which machine reported those flows, so we can go deeper inside it and give you more information. And you also can see how was it used. What I want to show you in a few minutes live is different activities you could see in a network. One of them is identifying reconnaissance activity, which basically means somebody wants to spy you. That normally happens if you have a long and slow activity. That could be over hours or days. It's just a little bit of information that flows. There we could analyze different things, and from those information we create something called concern index, high traffic, high connections, trapped hosts, and so on. We also will see that in the live demo. The next part will be command and control. And one thing you normally see is periodic phone home activity. Also there we have different things to analyze. Could be countries, could be time of day, could be long-lived flows, whatever. Also from those information we will have some methods of detection, suspect long flows, beaconing hosts, slick reputation feeds. After that, I will show you what we can see about data loss. If somebody tries to get data out of the company, there we have also the behavior, what's going on, did it happen in the past? Because everything we do is behavior-based. So if you have suspect data loss alarms, you also can go deeper into that. And at the end of the demo, I want to show you something about malware and how malware spreads and how we can see that. Here we also have different methods that we can use. We have concern indexes, we have target index, scanning alarms, touched hosts, swarm propagation alarms. I will show that live to you now. And in this live demo, oh, thank you, was too early. In this live demo, which is really live, so I hope nobody hacks my network here.
So guys, sorry that I interrupt you. If you have any question, feel free to ask, and we will try to answer your question, okay?
Okay, what we see here is a dashboard and just a cyber threats dashboard. What we see here, all those information down here. And on the left side, we see a tree. And in this tree, we have inside hosts, we have outside hosts. Those hosts are divided. Here we have application servers for authentication, database, whatever. We have in the data center, we have different servers, machines. So you can see a lot about your network. That's a basic functionality we use here, but it's an important functionality because the more you know about your network, the easier it is to find something. So if you have the precise information here, you can really drill down into that and find problems pretty fast. So if I close all of that here, you see application servers, everything is fine, no alarms. For the business units, it's red, so there are alarms. And if I just leave the mouse there, you see we have some host log violations, high concern index, and so on. So alarms. Now let me hide that tree. No, before I do that, I want to explain what's behind that. We have, in this network, we have some exporters. And there you see we have router, we have firewall, we have switch, we have other machines. And those machines deliver the net flows to us. That's where the information comes from. This information that comes from here is what you see here. And now I hide this tree so you see a little bit more. In this dashboard, you see on the left side suspicious internal hosts in the upper left corner. In the lower left corner, you see the suspicious outside hosts. And on the right side, target of attacks today and possible victims. That means if you see something here, the CI is a concern index. And concern index means something is wrong for us. And that's behavior based. So there are no signatures used. It's because this machine behaves different than it should behave. Also down here we have a concern index. And this concern index, if you look at that, we have, let me just switch on the concern index, the total number, and the concern index percent. Here you see, for example, from the Russian Federation, we have a pretty low concern index as a total number, but we have a very high concern index %. That means that based on the last 30 days, something is totally wrong now for us, so we show it as a very high priority. Behind here we see TCP scans from different countries. Now let's go a little bit deeper. Let's just take Brazil. I've preloaded that. So here we see just for that host, for the 175, 160 from Brazil, the start of the active time. When did the flow start? How long did the flows go? You see the source host, you see the target host groups and the target host. You see the single concern indexes and the events. In the concern index events, you see address scans on TCP port 5900, and it was tried for 30 times in this case. It was tried for 24 times in this case. So what's behind that? If we look at the configuration here, effective policy, we will see all those different policies that are in the system. Not all of them, we see just a few of them at the moment, and why they trigger an alarm or a high concern index. And if I go, if I go here to the high concern index and just leave the mouse there for a second, you see many different methods why we could trigger such an high concern. That could be bad flags, that could be fragmented packets, that could be SYN floods, that could be whatever. So you can define what you want to have in here. For others, like ICMP flood or SYN floods or whatever, you might not be able to change it. For others, you are able to change it. So also from here, you can always drill down. For this machine, I could say I want to see security touched hosts. Slow. Okay, let's go here. Let's take a look at the flows, for example. Here you can see over time the flows for this machine. In the upper part, you still see it's for this machine from Brazil. And here you can see the traffic over time, and you can see some spikes. And if something is not like you expected, you just can go in here, see the outbound traffic, see the inbound traffic, and maybe you want to see the top protocols, services, applications that are here. Now let's go back to the cyber threats. There are much more information here. This is just the dashboard at the moment. Let's go to Recognizance. And here you see mostly who is scanning your network, or is somebody from your network from the inside scanning something. There you see on the left side top internal scans. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 machines that do most of the scans. It looks a little bit different on the outside. And here you see there are ping scans, there are address scans on different ports, on port 80, on port 25, 22. So you can go deeper inside here and take a look what's going on here. Let's go to the data loss. Data loss is something different. Normally you want to see, is my data still in my company, or is somebody trying to get the data out of my company? And also here I can see in this bigger picture, that's for the last 36 hours. What happened? Which kind of traffic was inbound? Which kind of traffic was outbound? And also here you can just zoom in and get much more information. And if there's something that you want to see in detail, you just can say, I want to see the top hosts here at the moment who are speaking to each other. And you can see for the machines that talked to each other, all those information. And even from here, you can drill down again to get more information to find out exactly what's going on. So back to the cyber threats. If we take a look at the malware here, you also see some information that you might not see if you just use other tools to do that. On this side, let me zoom that a bit.
So here we can see malware propagation example. So malware is try to spread internally.
Yes, what we see here is the behavior of a worm. That means it tries to spread. What you normally see is maybe the green part, the green boxes. Because we show at the behavior and at the complete flows inside the network, we also can show where did it start. So from here, you also could go inside this purple box and drill down what happened there. So you get much more information. You see it if I do this again. So you can see throughout your network how something spread. You can follow that and you can get more information about it.
But of course you can follow that, but what is most important, you can find out from where the malware propagation starts. So this machine was the start of the propagation of the malware.
Correct. That's a very important information to see where it started. So the last thing I want to show you, because we're running out of time here, is botnets. If you take a look at the botnets, we are using something. Let me switch on the tree again. Here we have a command and control servers, sorry. And here you just see a lot of names that you might have heard before. We get that information and we compare our information that we get from behavior and from the flows and show you what's going on over time. Bot-infected hosts, successful CNC, or just attempted CNC. Down here we see some activities from Turkey, Romania, Germany. Where's China? Okay.
Again, China.
So from different countries, what they have used, here you see Zeus, you see Zonback, Chile, whatever. Also here, we can go in again. And if you want to see top services, ports, protocols, hosts, peers, conversations, flows as a flow table, peer versus peer, if you want to have detailed information for some machines, you can see that here. So, could be mine, could be yours, I don't know.
It's malware, of course.
There are so many telephones here, so could be any of them. So, that's basically what I am able to show you at the moment. If you want, I can show you much more. We are outside at the booth. This is just a small part which is about the security part of it. But there's much more to the product on the network side and on the management side. So if you are interested in that, okay, should I speak another 5 minutes? Good. No, actually, that's a good point here to come to the final.
So guys, if you have questions.
Yeah, you can leave the 5
Feel
minutes
free.
for the questions,
Yes,
if there are any.
if there are any.
Are there any questions?
Well, I
Yes.
just can
1
offer,
second.
if you want to see more details, I can show
Hello,
it
I want to ask
outside.
about what is the main difference between this software and other software that makes the behavioral network analysis?
There are many differences. We get different information. It depends on what you want to do. If you are looking for bad links or whatever, you would use some kind of a sniffer. That's not what we do. We are not really interested in single packets because a single packet is normally not too interesting for us. Single packet could be interesting if there are information in it that show us some attacks. So if you get too long packets or too short packets, we also use those information. The big difference is really that we do everything behavior-based. That means if I have, for example, here in the data center, I have a group application servers. I look over time, what is a normal behavior for those servers, and we create a threshold. You are able to change that, but we create a threshold. And compared to that threshold over the last days, we tell you there's something different. And that's something that you do not get from most of the tools, or you have to really work on those tools to get those information. Here we just tell you there's something different. Take a look at it. And even if we show you if something spreads in your network or where it started, you can drill down inside this one, or you can use different tools to look deeper inside it if you want. So it's not the only tool that you would use in your network. It can be a very basic tool for your work, but it might not be the only tool in your network.
And what is most important thing also, that most of the tools which are try to analyze net flows are concerning only about the flows. So that means they will get you an information about the whole traffic, about the flows. But this solution is concerning about the security. As Jochen mentioned, the solution is delivering you strictly information about the reconnaissance activities, about the malware propagation, about data loss activities. So it's not just analyzing NetFlow tool. It's more technology behind of this.
So also, if we look at the flows, normally if you switch on NetFlow, you get one flow in that direction, one flow in that direction. We don't have that here. If two machines are speaking to each other, we combine that so you get the aggregated information. And we do not show just one little piece, we show it over a long period. That means if some machines just send a few packets every 5 minutes, it might be an attack. So we might show one flow that is 20 hours long with just a few packets, so it's a long flow, but we still will show it with the two sides of the conversation. So I guess I have to leave now. If you have more questions, please come outside.
Please visit at the booth. We are staying at the end of the conference, so join us and we can show you more details, and you can play also with the web GUI if you want to.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much for the presentation.
Thank you.